All right, let's dive in. You sent over some clips from that best ever food review show on YouTube, and it looks like they spent some serious time exploring the street food scene in Myanmar. So I guess our mission today is to really uncover what makes Myanmar's cuisine so unique. What stories are hidden behind the food?
Yeah. I mean, street food can be a real window into a culture, right? It's not just about what people eat, but how they eat it, where they eat it. You can learn so much about a country's history and values just by looking at what they're cooking up on the streets.
I'm totally with you on that. And this show we're looking at, they really captured that, especially in Yangon, which is where they started. Yangon's the largest city in Myanmar, and man, the street food scene there looks insane. They're cooking everywhere, sidewalks, markets. Like, I even show people cooking and eating right on trains.
It's like a constant culinary party. And the coolest thing about Yangon is that it's been this cultural crossroads for centuries. I mean, you can see those influences in the food. India, China, Thailand, it's all blended in there.
I noticed that right away, like that oso salad thing they showed with the noodles and the giant pink rice balls. I'd never even heard of it before. It's this crazy mix of ingredients, kind of like a salad on steroids, all drenched in this wild combination of sauces.
It looked like a flavor explosion, and the setting made it even better. They were eating it on the Yangon circular train, this old train line built by the British during colonial times.
Yeah.
It's like this weird blend of old and new.
You've got this historic train as the backdrop for this super diverse and modern street food experience. And speaking of history, I was fascinated by how many people were wearing that Tanaka wood cream on their faces for sun protection and makeup. Apparently, it's a tradition that goes back centuries.
Isn't it interesting how some traditions just stick around? It's like a reminder that food and culture are totally intertwined. And it's not just about what you're putting in your mouth, but the whole ritual and history behind it.
Totally. Okay, but get ready because we're about to enter the wild world of Myanmar street meat. And when I say wild, I mean it. They showed skewers of pretty much every part of the pig you can imagine. They even had pig udder.
It's a real nose-to-tail approach to cooking, which honestly is something we're seeing more of here too. I mean, remember how the host described that pig udder? He said it was surprisingly juicy.
You see pig udder. That definitely goes on the to-try list. But that's not all. They also featured grilled goat testicles, which they said are like a classic beer snack.
It's a good reminder that what might seem bizarre in one culture can be totally normal, even a delicacy somewhere else. Food can really push us to rethink our own ideas about what's edible, right?
So you're telling me, okay, and then there were the night markets in Yangon. I mean, where do I even begin? Man-powered Ferris wheels, these insane quail egg pancakes cooked in a giant cupcake tin. I'd never seen anything like it.
It's incredible, right? Talk about ingenuity.
Yeah.
The vendors are so resourceful, and those quail egg pancakes are just one example. They even had skewers with all sorts of quail parts, the intestines, even unlaid eggs.
Wow. I don't even know what's more mind-blowing, the quail egg skewers or the man-powered Ferris wheel. But let's move on from Yangon and head to the coast. Our next stop is Mekem, this town that's all about seafood. Fresh seafood everywhere.
Oh yeah, the night fish market in Mekem is insane. They showed all these fishermen selling their catch directly to the vendors, so it's super fresh. You can really see how important the fishing industry is in that region.
It's like the heart of the town. And then they showed that fish cemetery, which, that name is a little unsettling. But basically, it's this huge open space where they dry fish in the sun to preserve it.
I know it's not the prettiest sight, but it's pretty ingenious, especially in a place where refrigeration might not be so common. It's all about making the most of what they have. Resourcefulness at its finest.
Exactly. And they actually tried some of that dried fish. Apparently it has this crispy, kind of smoky, almost crackery flavor. But the coolest part of Mekem for me was that trip they took out to a remote ocean farm. They went out on this little boat to a floating platform where they're raising all sorts of fish grouper, carp, even red snapper.
It's like a floating farm. They're basically creating these little ecosystems out in the ocean, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And remember that hilarious moment when the host tried to give the farmer that parrotfish as a gift, and it turned out to be rotten?
Oh, man, so awkward. That was rough. But hey, at least they still got to have that incredible seafood feast later with all that fresh grouper and mussels and state fish. You could practically taste the ocean. But okay, prepare for a change of scenery because now we're going inland up into the mountains of Pendia. That's where we meet the Palong and Danu people who, they have a very different way of life.
Yeah, these communities are much more traditional. Their lives are tied to the land they hunt, they forage, they farm, and of course all of that is reflected in what they eat.
The video starts with them stumbling upon a local sports competition, like one of those events that happens only once every few years. And of course, there's food involved. They get to try some chickpea tofu and papaya salad.
That chickpea tofu looked incredible. But what really stood out to me was the sense of community. They showed the village elders preparing this massive feast for everyone, so welcoming and generous.
Yeah, it's amazing how food brings people together like that. But then things got really interesting when they showed how they smoke ants out of a tree and eat them.
Okay, so ants are actually a pretty common food in that region. They eat them in all sorts of ways. In the video, the host tries ant eggs, which he described as having a sour, earthy flavor. Then they made this savory ant dish with peanuts.
I was impressed that he was willing to try it. And then he got to have this whole meal at Granny's house: rice, beef jerky, bird, and of course, ants. It really drives home the point that food is more than just fuel. It's a reflection of culture and history, and sometimes it's about making the most of what you have, even if it's ants.
It's about pushing boundaries, right?
Hmm.
And Pandia has even more surprises in store for us. Next, we'll explore Congo Market and then finish our journey in Mandalay. Buckle up, because things are about to get even more interesting.
I'm African.
Congo Market, man, talk about a sensory overload. You see all these different tribes coming together, trading, hanging out, and the smells coming from the food stalls are unbelievable. They found these deep-fried donuts, and they almost look like little glazed donuts, like a Burmese crispy creme, as the host put it, and they were drizzled with this jaggery syrup.
Jaggery, right. That's like unrefined cane sugar, isn't it? So it probably has that like deep molassesy flavor.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like the perfect combo with those donuts. They also had beef skin salad, which I gotta say sounded a little out there.
Yeah, beef skin salad. Not exactly your typical salad, huh?
Well, they seasoned it up with turmeric, coriander, crushed peanuts. I mean, it sounds like an interesting mix of flavors, at least. And speaking of turmeric, did you see how they use it to make that turmeric rice? It's like a staple in Burmese cuisine. They serve it with fish flakes, scallions, little chili oil, even puffed rice for some crunch.
It's all about those layers, right? The
Yeah.
different flavors and textures. And then there was that insane noodle dish they tried. Flat noodles, tofu paste, cabbage, chicken curry, soy sauce, garlic oil, crushed peanuts, scallions. They just kept adding stuff.
It looked like a flavor bomb. The host called it an addictive, thick party noodle. It was swimming in this crazy thick sauce. It looked super hearty and definitely messy. But okay, the real adventure starts when they leave the market and go to this Danu village for a full-on feast.
And they're not messing around. They caught a whole pig and used every single part of it. It was like a multi-course extravaganza, pig style.
Yeah. Watching them prepare everything was fascinating. They show the whole process, cleaning the intestines, the trotters. They even made blood cake. It's incredible how skilled they are. And the host got to help pick tea leaves for a special salad.
That tea leaf salad looked amazing. They boil the leaves to get rid of the bitterness and then toss them with lime juice, tomatoes, green chilies, fried beans, peanuts, cabbage, all sorts of stuff. He said it didn't even taste like tea.
It's so cool how they transformed something so ordinary into something totally new. But of course, the star of the show was the pig. I mean, they made so many dishes: face salad, intestine cooked in bamboo, stewed trotters. It was a celebration of their culinary heritage.
I'm not sure about the face salad, but that intestine dish, he said it had this like springy texture, almost like calamari. He was really impressed. And you can tell that food like really brings them together, sharing these traditions and stories over a meal.
It's about connection, right? More than just sustenance. But okay, now we're back in Mandalay, and the host is on a mission to find even more unusual foods. So first up, pork brain noodles.
This is where things start to get a little intense, even for me. They go to this noodle shop where they specialize in pork brain noodles, and he actually says the brain tastes like chicken, and it creates this creamy texture when it mixes with the noodles.
If you're feeling really brave, they also have a bowl of, like, straight-up boiled pork brains in chicken broth. I don't know if I could handle that.
Okay.
But then they stumble upon this village bar outside of Mandalay.
And it's not just any bar, right? It's a gathering spot for the locals. They drink palm wine, and of course they have some pretty crazy food. They actually showed how they make the palm wine. Someone climbs the tree to collect the sap, and then it ferments. It's actually pretty dangerous. Apparently someone broke their leg falling from a tree.
Maybe some good palm wine.
Huh.
And to go with the drinks, they decided to hunt for field rats, which are, I guess they're a pretty common food in this area.
So they're using these slingshots they made themselves out of wood and rubber bands. And it was so funny watching them trying to catch those rats.
The hunt didn't go so well. But luckily, they had some pre-caught ones just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, and they also found a smoked hare, which they made into a salad. But of course, they couldn't skip trying the local specialty rat.
They tried it both ways, deep fried and grilled. The host compared it to fried chicken, maybe not so exotic after all. They also had this palm sap candy made from the same stuff as the wine.
A real feast of the unexpected, right?
Yeah.
And then, back in Mandalay, they found this street vendor selling fried fish skin salad.
It's amazing how nothing goes to waste. She takes the fish skin, batters it, fries it up, and it becomes this crunchy topping for the salad. The host said it was like a crouton.
So resourceful. And to finish things off, they tried giant crickets. I mean, these things were huge. They even sell the legs separately, like chicken drumsticks. They season them up with garlic and ginger, fry them until they're crispy.
It's a lot, I know. He said they were like potato chips, mostly air, but with a salty, crunchy texture. He even tried the females, which are full of eggs. They're supposed to be juicier, I guess. Definitely not for everyone. But it's so cool how open he is to trying new things. He's not afraid to step outside his comfort zone.
That's what makes this whole journey through Myanmar street food so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's about embracing the unknown and using food to, connect with different cultures.
But our Myanmar adventure isn't over yet. We still have one more stop, and it might be the most unexpected one of all. Get ready to peek inside a Buddhist monastery and explore their unique relationship with food. All right, so now we're entering a whole different world, a Buddhist monastery. Buddhism is like the foundation of life in Myanmar, and it influences everything, even their approach to food.
Yeah, what's so interesting is how food in the monastery isn't just about, eating. It's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
They approach it with so much mindfulness and discipline. It's really connected to their spiritual beliefs.
The day starts crazy early, like 4 a.m., and the monks are already up making breakfast, this dish called hin pound. It's got water, peanut oil, roselle leaves, and then this mysterious orange ingredient that they don't tell you what it is until later.
To really get the full experience, the host actually becomes a monk for a day.
What? No way.
Yeah, and he has to learn all the rules. No alcohol, no touching women, showing respect to elders. It's like a total test of self-control.
Talk about commitment. So what's it like being a monk for a day?
Well, one of the most important rituals is collecting alms. Every morning, the monks walk through the village barefoot, carrying their bowls, and people give them food offerings.
It's like a daily act of generosity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the people believe that giving to the monks will earn them merit, like good karma. It's really beautiful to see this community support. Even those who don't have much are willing to share with the monks.
That connection is so powerful. And then get this, the monks only eat one meal a day. Breakfast is in the morning, and then they fast until the next day.
It's like a form of intermittent fasting. And they believe it helps with meditation and improves their health. It's pretty amazing how an ancient practice like that is becoming trendy now too, right?
It is. Okay, so after they collect alms, they have this massive feast, but they eat in complete silence. They're really focused on each bite. And then any leftovers go into a big pot and they simmer it for hours.
And remember that mystery orange ingredient in the breakfast?
Oh, yeah. What was that all about?
It was the leftover food from the day before, all blended together. It's a great example of how they minimize waste. They value every bit of food they get.
It's a good lesson for all of us. And I learned something else that surprised me. Not all monks avoid meat. Some monasteries allow it, while others stick to vegetarian diets. It depends on the specific traditions and teachings of each monastery.
That's right. There's diversity within even a tradition as old as Buddhism. But a host's monk experience doesn't last long. He admits to having too many worldly temptations. Haha.
I can relate.
It's a good reminder, though, it's about balance. And that's a central idea in Buddhism.
Finding that balance is key. But okay, enough with the spiritual stuff. He's back to exploring more, I guess you could say, normal Myanmar food. And he tries some crazy stuff like stir-fried chicken butt.
Chicken butts? Are we really?
I'm not kidding. He eats grilled doves, sparrow. He's fearless.
He really goes all in, huh? But it's inspiring, that willingness to try anything.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what have we learned from this deep dive into Myanmar's street food?
I mean, it's more than just delicious dishes, right? It's a glimpse into their history, culture, their resourcefulness, their spiritual beliefs.
From bustling cities to remote mountain villages and even peaceful monasteries, we've seen how food brings people together, helps them survive, and gives us a window into their lives.
What stands out most to you from this whole journey? What surprised you the most? Did any of the dishes particularly intrigue you?
It's amazing to see how food can teach us so much about a culture.
It's a great starting point, I think. It's approachable, and it makes you want to explore further, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Myanmar's food scene is definitely on my bucket list now.